Basically what happens is the person will make a payment similar to what you want, $1,500, but a piece of that, a percentage, goes towards the purchase price if they want to buy in the future. Instead of putting down $1,500 as a security deposit, they'll put down $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 as a non-refundable option fee, right? And they have the right to buy it in the future at a predetermined agreement. Now in the past, that agreement would have a number on it, right? You'd have a sale price number on it. Well, you can't do that anymore. So people say, well, lease purchases are no good now. When I used to do straight consulting, we would charge very, very large fees and put it in the contract. Then the law changed and said you couldn't collect a consulting fee unless you owned a brokerage company. So everybody that I was working with thought we were out of business. So all we did is ran the ad and found Andrew. And then just ran it through as a consulting fee to a brokerage company, and it was totally legal. It still didn't seem to matter to some people because they weren't used to paying 26% on a transaction. But think about it. If a realtor can drive around or show on a computer a house and you buy it, and they get paid 6% whether it's $100,000 or $10 million, I don't understand how that makes sense to anybody. The same work is done for a $100,000 home as a $10 million home. Actually, I would say probably more work for the $100,000 home than the $10 million home. So my point is, the real estate community across the country is involved in price fixing. Because a realtor won't show, a typical realtor won't show a home if it says $500 commission. You think they would show your house if the house next door has a 3% commission or a 4% commission and yours says $500 fee? Will your house be shown? No. But who is the realtor supposed to be representing? But who does a realtor represent? And that's the only person anybody represents is themselves. And that's okay. But across the country, the industry pretends that the agent represents either the buyer or the seller, when the agent simply represents themselves and wants the buyer and the seller to be happy. That's all, right? You want the buyer and seller to be happy, so you make a fee. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's not pretend. So why is it only 6? Where did that number come from? Well, that's like somebody saying they're a Democrat because Daddy was a Democrat. Or I'm a Republican because Mommy was a Republican. There isn't even such a thing as a Republican or a Democrat. At all. I mean, in the old days, a Republican was a real conservative, right? And a Democrat was a real liberal. Well, everybody's liberal and conservative based on issues. And it's been that way, and it's going to be that way, and it isn't going to change from that way until we realize there really isn't that much of a difference between us. Just like these 7 religions, right? I didn't know this until we did this research for our show, that there's 7 religions that are, and I didn't even know half of them. I never even heard of them. That there's 7 religions, and those 7 religions, almost all of what they believe in is the same, except for the top pieces. So it's the same with the lease purchase. What you want to do is see the pieces that fit. So if he's going to rent his home for $1,500, and I say, hey, if I got you $1,500 a month and $1,500 down as an option amount, non-refundable, would you be interested in that kind of a deal? He's going to be interested. He's going to talk to me, isn't he? Hey, would you mind if I found a buyer that was willing to put $3,500 down, and I kept $2,000 out of the $3,500? You got your $1,500, which you wanted, but now it's non-refundable instead of refundable, right? Like a security deposit. And you got your monthly payment, a better tenant, probably no maintenance, and a future sale price that's subject to appraisal. Would that deal interest you? Why wouldn't it? And typically the reason it wouldn't interest him is the approach. You try to sell it instead of explain it. So what I'm attempting to do here is simply explain the benefits of something that worked for me. So, if you own property and you're renting it, what I recommend is you can run your ad for rent, but definitely run your ad for lease purchase. There's people that would like to buy. but they're not in a position financially to buy. Maybe they don't have the credit to buy, they don't have enough cash to buy, or they don't know how to buy. And working on a lease purchase with you is similar to partnering with Dan under this program, right? Because you're getting a little bit more out of the deal. And you as a lease purchase consultant, basically, are putting this transaction together and able to collect a fee out of it. You simply would write the contract up in your name and assign it or sell it to the lease purchaser and keep the difference. Now some people get in the middle of those transactions, okay? So here's the buyer, and here's the seller, and here's us. Okay? If I write the contract up in my name and sell it or assign it to the buyer, am I involved in the deal anymore? I'm out, right? Now can I do that without a license? Can I write up a contract to buy a property without a license?
Yes.
Can I sell that contract to buy the property without a license? Absolutely. There will be people that will say you can. That's okay. You can. Why can't you? You're a principal. Now, once you start doing 1,000 of these, you might want to think about owning a brokerage company, so nobody can give you any lip. The last thing you want to do is on purpose create trouble for yourself, which seems like the first half of my life is all I ever did. But I didn't know any better. I mean, I was taught by my father-in-law. My father-in-law was owned an exterior remodeling company, and he taught us how to get into a home, and it was vinyl siding. Did anybody see the movie Tin Men? It's way worse than that. That's like kindergarten compared to what the business is really like. But I was taught as a youngster, if the product's really good and the company's really good and they really do stand by what they believe in, well then why couldn't you charge anything that you wanted to charge? I mean really, if this guy is going to do a job for $4,000 and he's inferior to your company, in your mind, couldn't you charge $8,000 for the same job? You can charge whatever you want. Unless you talk to some people that don't agree with that. Because I used to charge $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 consulting fees. And the only problem with that is what? If somebody pays that kind of a fee, what kind of a problem are you going to have? They want results. And where do the results come from when you're teaching somebody what to do? So you are destined for death with every single transaction. It took me 52 years to figure that out. Think of it like a gym. The person wants to get in shape. They pay you a fee to get in shape. You know what to do. You can't run for that person. You can't do the exercise for that person. Now, going back in time, what I should have done is turned everybody into a passive investor instead of an active client. An active client has to physically do something, right? A passive investor comes up with money, like on one of these programs here with Dan. It's like, hey, be totally passive. What's the requirement for the person who's totally passive? Other than that? Nothing. And there's nothing better than nothing for somebody to do. So think of it. You had to change your philosophy, you had to change your perspective. Because no matter what anybody pays, whether it's $1,000 or $1 million, if the market changes, which it happened to be twice, in the 80s and in 2008, and you're charging really large fees, people are going to get really pissed off. Especially when that property is worth half as much as it was, and you have a payment, let's say, of $10,000, and you can only rent that property for $3,000. Such is my history. So I am attempting to move on and transform and to change the philosophy of the way I do business. And I recommend everybody does that. So lease purchase, the philosophy of it can be modified to what it is you're doing. And you say, well, how can you do that? Well, again, you were going to rent a home, and now you're going to apply a purchase principle to that rental agreement. Right? The person's moving in, they're going to be there. And if you were renting from me, I would simply say, hey, you know, this property, you might end up staying here. You might end up, this property might go up in value. You could gain some equity with your payments, right? I mean, think about it. There's some people that will give you 10%, 25%, 50%, some people 100% of the monthly payment and put it